What's happening? They're finding a home in my crotch. Hello, I'm Tom Ellis, and I'm here with BuzzFeed, and apparently some cats. Release the kittens! Oh my gosh, there's more. Hey! Goodness me, it's a cute overload. I've got two cats. In fact, these look like miniature versions of my cats. We have a black cat called Kane, and we have a tabby cat like this called Abel, just to keep it biblical. You get to go and lock yourself in a little room, and there's no one there apart from a few people on monitors. You just do your bit, and so you do them a few times, and you try different things. It's quite a liberating experience. There were moments when I completely just went crazy. So yeah, you're allowed to make a fool of yourself, and you don't look that silly. The first sort of truly American dish that I was introduced to, and I tried it once and never again, was sweet potato with marshmallows on top, which is just, you know, you're mixing savoury and dessert. There's no place for that in the world. I've definitely seen people on flights watching things, and then what tends to happen these days is that people with smartphones and stuff, if they see you in the street, they kind of recognise you, and then you see a kind of small conversation between them and who they're with, and then they get the phones out and they start doing this and they start looking over and they start nodding. I've sort of learned to not say anything until if someone comes up to me I'll say something, but I try to keep it pretty low-key these days. I remember going in and meeting Len Wiseman, who was the director, and I remember before that, like sitting in a room with lots and lots of people and, you know, doing that thing that you do as an actor, which is talk yourself out of the job before you even get in the room. I went with them, and thankfully Len was very responsive in the room, and I felt like I'd made a good impression. I got a call pretty quickly after that, which never normally happens. So, oh, we got the sparkles out. Well, they're both British. Lucifer lived in a world where his voice was much higher, is up there, more piercing, kind of nasally quality. For God, I felt like he needed to be a bit more grounded. And I had just worked with an actor called Charles Dance, who's very lovely, but he's got a very intimidating voice. And I sort of found myself doing impressions of him inadvertently. So yeah, there's a dash of Charles Dance in there for sure. We had a lot of fun shooting that show. We had an incredible crew. The cast were always game for a laugh. But I think the thing that always sticks in my mind is doing a scene in the cop car with Lauren German and Rachel Harris. And Rachel was sat in the back of the car and Lauren and I were sat in the two front seats. And they were trying to line up the shot to get Rachel perfectly in the middle. And the director said, could you move to your left slightly? And as she moved, we heard this. And we were like, was that? And Rachel went, uh-huh. And we just lost it. Everyone lost it. The crew, everybody, the director, for about 10 minutes. Flatulence was a common theme. Yes, when we finished Lucifer, I wanted to take something home that reminded me of my experience there. Obviously, you can't take anything you want, but I spoke to the props department and they said, well, have a look at all the trinkets that are in Lucifer's penthouse and see if there's anything you want to take. And of course, I gravitated towards this ivory tusk, which had been carved with all these different inscriptions and stuff. We often picked up said tusk and played around with it in between takes because it looked not like a tusk and something else. Current phone wallpaper is a picture of my baby, Dolly. So sorry to my other children about that. Two people, actually. One was one I was told about, and the other one was actually in the flesh. I was at a comic book convention in Salt Lake City a couple of years ago, and I saw Alice Cooper, and I was like, oh my God, it's Alice Cooper. And then he came and asked me for a photo because he was a big fan of the show, and I couldn't believe it. And then the other one was I got a call from one of our producers on Lucifer who just had a meeting with Snoop Dogg about something else, but he'd seen the Lucifer poster on the wall, and he was like, oh my God, you guys do Lucifer? And she was like, yeah, and he was like, whoa, that Lucifer's a bona fide mother. I was like, Snoop's a fan, this is amazing. I auditioned for Gaston in the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast, and I was desperate to do it because I thought it was wonderful. But my friend Luke Evans got it, so I wasn't that sad about it. But yes, I auditioned for that. Well, Kevin was in True Blood, Kevin Alejandro, who plays Dan. And so I think that I probably would do that because I thought True Blood was a fantastic show. My love language are words of affirmation and probably acts of service, I would say. I feel like a weird sort of puppeteer. you know, you're led to believe, or I certainly at the time was led to believe, that if a show gets cancelled, that's pretty much it. It was a strange time because whilst the show was on Fox in the States, it was also had been like sold off to streamers around the world. It wasn't performing amazingly on Fox, and then, you know, that sort of continued for the first 3 seasons, and then when they cancelled the show, I thought to myself, I think there's a few people who won't be very happy about this, but I just didn't really consider how many it would be and how relentless they were in their fury at the decision and the injustice of it all and all of the things. And so for it to get cancelled, for everyone to sort of say that they didn't want it to be cancelled, and then for Netflix to step in and for the show to continue, it was just such a vindicating experience. And after that, you know, the show really took off on Netflix, but I will be eternally grateful. And I think ever since that happened, it does feel like there's this unique synergy with our audience that, you know, fans of our show feel like they're shareholders in our show because they feel that they really did something to continue it. And that's such a sort of special feeling I've never experienced before. I think that we talked so much on Lucifer about God and about Dad, I wasn't sure we'd ever get to meet him. We got through a few seasons and there was more story to tell, and so we finally did introduce the character of Dad, and I was so glad that they did it. It meant something, that storyline, and for Lucifer, who's quite a surface character a lot of the time, to have something that really meant and rocked his core was really cool. Come on, you got this. You've got this. You're definitely the sociable one out of the 4, aren't you? Laughing, hopefully. Exploding Kittens it's really funny. It's got all the things that you would hope would be in an adult animation. Slightly risky jokes, something for everybody, physical comedy. It's a very enjoyable animation, but it's also quite a lovely story. I'll say Michelle Pfeiffer, actually. Grease 2. Has anyone seen that? You can't not. So Michelle Pfeiffer, definitely. Working with my wife, Megan, is a joy. You know, she's so brilliant at what she does. She's an incredible writer, but not only that, she just understands storytelling. Not only is she an incredible writer, but she's brilliant with actors at giving them notes. She is, you know, very gracious to the rest of her team. Yeah, we had a great time. I've done a lot of comedy and I've done a lot of drama. I've never been in a horror film, and I think that would be quite fun, actually. Most of the time, people are very lovely and polite. There was one time that I was at an event and everyone had had a few drinks, and this husband and wife came up to me, and the wife was like, "Tom, can I take a photo with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." And the husband was like, "Oh, thanks so much, thanks so much." So I got in the photo with the wife, the husband stood to take the photo, and as he was about to take it, the woman said to me, "Can I lick your face?" And I was like, "I'd rather you didn't." And then her husband starts piping up from behind the camera, "Go on, Tom, lick her face, lick her face." And I'm like, this is weird. So I said, I'll put my tongue next to your face so it looks like I've licked you, but I wouldn't like to lick it. I can't imagine that happening to many people. I mean, it's a unique experience. I think the fact that you go and do a scene without the other actors in it is quite a unique experience. You're just going in and doing your bits, and you might get someone to read in a couple of the lines to cue you up, but it's not the actor that's in the scene, it will be one of the producers or the engineers. And so that is quite a sort of strange experience, because you really have to kind of manufacture different responses and different ways of saying things. I think it's more of a lonely experience than people realise. Get up, have a Starbucks, go and play golf, have a few drinks after, probably go out for a nice dinner with my wife in the evening, pretty low key. When I was growing up, my granddad and my dad were both big Disney fans. I think the one I was really obsessed with when I was growing up was Disney's version of Robin Hood with the foxes. And it's not their best by any stretch, but for some reason I absolutely love it. Ooh-da-lally, ooh-da-lally. I watched Coda recently, and it's about 2 deaf parents, and they have a deaf son and they have a daughter who isn't deaf, and she does the communication for the family essentially, but she also sings, and of course they never hear her sing. But there is this one moment, oh, I'm gonna cry saying it. There's a one moment where the dad, he asks his daughter to sing, and while she's singing he places his hands on her neck. Listen to the vibrations, and it's one of the most touching, beautiful moments I've ever seen in anything. So yeah, probably that. If anyone is interested in adopting or fostering any of these kittens and other kittens, then go to the website at bestfriends.org and have a look on there. They're a wonderful charity, and well, these guys need a good home. Come on. Do you want to come home with me? My wife would love that. Exploding Kittens, now streaming on Netflix. I'm joking. You're okay.